I'm gonna set up in a second and set things up. Hello everyone. Starla here. All by myself came back because Remy-chan almost locked her in. And here I am. So, we're back for True Blood, Walkthrogh 13. This might be the last day. This is the final episode for Shiki's route. And previously, I got a no ending. I'm starting to feel warmed this up for this guy. Even though I clipped it since I'm put on YouTube and TikTok in the first place. So, I had to continue this all this week. You'll see what announcements ahead about this. Also, be warned of spoiler. What I'm talking about, Shiki, what I'm talking about. It will be major spoiler ahead what I mentioned since I watched the anime. The reason in the last walkthrough 12, I want nothing. That's why we go into the sewer. So, I'm starting to warm things up in the odd age version. Better than the uncensored version. So, I will choose. I have no answer. Okay. I have no answers. Technically, I was. Yanked by the hair behind, Akira's forces turned around. He glares fiercely at the merciless eyes illuminated before him.
その命知らずで向こうミスな態度。以前に会った時からそうだったな。何がお前をそこまで突き動かすのか興味がある。ふざけるな。
Oh! Oh shoot! I messed up! Damn, I messed up! Hold on. Let me try that again. Take two. Hold on. Let me try this again. Nothing.
欲しいものなんか何もない。
Wait.
どういう意味だ。
Did I just...
俺はあんたに勝たなきゃならない理由がある。絶対に勝たなきゃならない理由が。
I have no answer. Yeah, I did. Let me go back. Let me go back. I have no answers. Okay.
だんまりか。
If I got it right.
叶わないと知りながら挑む。その命知らずで向こうミスな態度。以前に会った時からそうだったな。何がお前をそこまで突き動かすのか興味がある。ふざけるな。
Okay. Kick hard as a side, then tumbled into the back of the ground. An agony.
よほど死にたいようだな。
Wait, did I read this scene? Did I get to the scene?
今ここに
Okay, good.
新たなイルレが生まれたことを宣言する。
Okay, I got a new scene. Since I put it says I have no answer. So I got a new scene. Okay. I got it. I got it right. Okay, good. Arbalta's voice echoes through the dead harsh arena. The only other people present were security guards Yet it was pebble and erased in the air. It was only natural. Nobody could have foreseen such a development. Shiki sees the katana, turn on his heel.
待てよ。
Shiki shows no sign of stopping the cure, giving it chase. Question: burning with him. How was he supposed to accept it suddenly being appointed a erase like this?
待て、シキ。この後のことは。
Arvato, sounding flustered, cut in.
勝手にしろ。
Shiki spat as he left the Coliseum without other glance. Navigating through the dark, narrow corridor descended a spiral staircase. He emerged to his entrance. The max guards with the occasional little brush past him in a place that visibly coiled to the right, straight out Shiki. Shiki made his way into the black alley, and the cure followed until the other man suddenly stopped it as he casted a cold glance over his shoulders.
ついてくるな。
聞きたいことがある。
Shiki didn't respond, but he didn't walk away either, so Akira continues.
あんたはどうして豊島にいるんだ？
The undefeated Erai, all the legends about him were likely true. However, the ease with which is the request his position of Akira suggests that he had no attachments to status or honor. Then why? Why was he in Toshima?
お前に話す必要はない。
俺はイルレをあんたから引き継いだ。それくらい聞く権利はあるはずだ。
Staring unfrequently into his wavering eyes, Akira spoke with certainty. But he didn't hold firm. He knew he was flinching to look away. Shiki tilted his head slightly, casting a sidelong glance at Akira.
調子に乗るな。イルレなどただの飾りに過ぎん。
だとしても、あんたが俺に渡したってこと自体に何か意味があるんじゃないのか。
Shiki had never once yelled at the throne of the Irai to any other challenge. That much was clear from Arbalto's aggressions. It might have just been a whim, but maybe there is some kind of reason from it. That was that Akira thought.
傲慢だな。
With a short sneer, Shiki's erupted to lift his chin. Simultaneously, his expression became blank.
ある男を追っている。
Huh? I know.
男？
豊島にいる目的はそれだけだ。
As he was about to turn away, Akira opened his mouth as he chased after him.
俺はあんたに個人的な借りがある。
Shiki stopped.
イルレを譲られただけじゃ意味がない。あんたに勝って、それで初めて俺はイルレに勝ったことになる。
I'm giving you a salute for you. Your luck. Thank you, sis. This might be the last day since I put spoiler what I'm about to mention why. He already done for Emma asking for him. This bitch. But that wasn't why he wanted this anyway. Akira wanted to fight Shiki for his own pretty self-esteem. He just been handed the title of the Irai. He could have hardly said he had won. Akira wanted to beat him.
雑魚らしいザレ言だ。
As Shiki glanced back over his shoulder, he probably curls his lips into the smirk with a smirk.
面白いな。 身の程知らずもここまで来れば大したものだ。叶わないと知っていながらなぜ挑む。死が恐ろしくはないのか。お前もあいつも。
I see. Akira wonders who he was talking about. As he wondered, Akira suddenly fled his his jacket. Huh? It's this bitch again. I don't want to hear her. I swear to goddamn it, all my hates. It was a communication device he pulled out of the pocket. There was a slight shift in Shiki's expressions. Akira knows his changed, but he'd accepted the call that brought the phone to his ear. I don't care.
ずいぶん忙しいみたいだな。
I don't want to hear her.
もう終わった。あんたに言われた通りのことをした。
詳しく
豊島に。
話は後だ。今どこにいる？
城の。
わかった。
I don't want to hear her. Sorry about that. That was my call. Shiki decided to flip the hammer to this cold to walk deeper into the alley. To change it in Shiki's expression. After seeing the communication device was traveled to Akira. Unconsciously, he found himself trying to fall before he snaps back into the reality. There is no reason to pick a stick together. It was better than him to beat him and Emma than the others. Wandering the main street would make it easy to find Emma. Akira started to walk into the directions. I don't like the sign of that. I don't like where it's going. Emerged from the black alley, makes it a lot came to the view. Akira felt it as thought he has been there before. He thought it was wondering the vision of the cold, merciless eyes that flashed through his mind. That's right. She has forcibly brought him here. Ruminating under the bitterness of his emotions at that time, Akira slowly let his gaze wander around. The wind was swept through the vents in a lot of lukewarm, and the sky was covered in thick clouds. An unpleasant humidity wrapped itself in Akira's in a triangle entrance. Was Emma's really coming? What did she find him here? He had a doubt to the boat and decided to wait. After a while, the two shadows appeared ahead of him.
Genkiそうだな。そんなに不思議。
I already know what you did.
トレースシステムか。
特定も。
I already know that scene, but I already know why.
それでは一体。
I don't want to hear you.
何？
I don't want to hear
あんたたちとの
you.
約束は果たした。ビスキオも好きにすればいい。
それは
こんなことで嘘をついてもすぐにバレる。
それは
どういうことだ？
I already know what you think. I already know.
ある男。
ある男？
ここへ
Because of an unknown person. So, I already know that scene.
新薬。どういうことかわかるか？ニコルプとにかく軍部そこで終戦ところが適用
Okay,
者として
I already know that scene. If it's new. The cold voice snaps Akira's back from his confusions.
ニコル
Drawn into the chaos, he wasn't true what he think anymore.
お前の連れの体内にていくらやったが
反作用がどう救いになるんだよ。
人体基地とで案の定ナノの
研究材料としてか。お前特殊な才能笑わせるな。一方的に植え付けられただけだ。
Well, that's true. We already know why the unknown person.
それに誰をあんたたち
だろうな だから
エマ
知ったことか。
I already know, I already know
残りの
that
血脈
scene.
は呪い。
この任
This pisses me off.
もはや
エマ
But I feel bad for
私は
Gwen.
日光連と
But
死
not
ぬ。
Emma!
言うな
The gunshots resounded, tearing through the rain. She has definitely pulled the trigger, yet Akira had felt no pain, no heat, or expect. A black shadow leaped through the front of him. Akira has pulled it aside, pulled from the side. Whoa! Thank you! Thank you for saving me! Thank you! From this bitch! This is new CG, by any chance. Confused, he trying to catch the sight of what happened. His eyes quickly widened with shock. Silhouette by the city. Familiar face. Black hair soaking in the rain. Dropped his front over the counted his jawline before falling. Shiki. And beyond him was Emma's lady pointing her gun. The gun is slowly slipped through her hand. Harder to fall off the machine. Her eyes were wide open and staring at nothing. Emma lifted her chest at the sword blade of the dice prison. Good! Good riddance! For once, Shiki! For once! As Emma's body crumbled to the blade struck to the Gwen's shoulder. Oh. That. Before he had a chance to squeeze to the trigger at Shiki, he grips it undone from the pain. His back was flipped to the clips in half. As he's shielding her, Gwen's body crumbled to the ground alongside Emma. For a moment, all sound cases, but it was all rentalist pouring in the rain. On the waterlogged ground of the prison life force of the two agents able away, done to the rainwater. Overwhelmed and arrived at this section of this event, Akira could only stand in a stunned silence. He felt in a strong grip around his waist, and realized and began to embrace yet his gods. Remained with the froze, and he was unable to move. Cold prism eyes looked down to the pair of the agents as rain swallowed them up.
あの男を殺すのは俺だ。それからあいつと同じ血を持つお前もだ。
I lost my words what you did to get rid of that bitch. For once. Thank you for saving me. For once. He was like, nobody touches my man but me. That's my job. He was like, piercing eyes accomplished those words. Akira caught his breath. His gaze was suddenly intense, piercing down in the depths of his body. Scorning with anything his path. Shiki released Akira, and from the embrace of the flick of his sword, cleaned in a rain of blood. Had he been saved? Yeah, he kinda did. As I thought on that, before relief or anything else, or profound sense of the defeat surged from the deep inside him. He clenched his fist so hard, it now dug into his palms. The rain felt usually cold. In contrast, his body felt hot. The looks that Shiki's gave him the even colder still.
俺に勝つとそう言っていたな。
Yeah, sounds like it. The blade, now free from blood, was silently pointed at Akira.
それだけでは生ぬるい。殺しに来い。
Okay. Shiki's sharp gaze pierced through him. The way his eyes permitted his entire body, he felt like a spell has been cast over him.
俺があの男を殺すのが先か、お前が俺を殺すのが先か。俺を殺したければ追ってこい。
Words cleared as day bit into the Akira's nerves and seep into his very being. If you want to kill me, then chase me. That's all he says. At once, a strong killing intense grew from the inserted a sense into the defeat that it has been tormenting him. Once again, he fixed his gaze on the man that's standing before him. Despite the past interactions, if it fails to their eyes meet their first time, Shiki, with a definite spark in his eyes, gave the slight, almost incredible smile.
めでたしめでたしというわけにはいかないな。
You're interrupted his monologue and sodomite. You ruin it. Oh, these guys. Akira turns his face to the sources of his voice to the study cut in. Arbato and the Akira's envelope. Arbato wanted to see his fake the smile always as the two Akiras looked bored out of their wits.
無礼かとは思ったのだがね。話は聞かせてもらったよ。エマか。顔を見るのは久しぶりだ。と言っても、もう冷たくなっているか。
Well, Shiki killed these two, but turns out by that, Shiki killed this bitch. She's so fucking annoying. Arbato said that glanced briefly at falling the bodies through his max. Did he do Emma? Perhaps seeing Akira's question in his expression are about to smile.
ああ、私もこの女と同じ研究所にいたことがあるのだよ。
Huh? So Arbato been part of the research faculty too. Gazing on the godly disgraceful man now, he found out how hard to imagine they couldn't even held to the respectful job.
似合わねえってよ。
生まれた時から仮面つけてるように見えるからな。
黙れ。
Arbato glanced at the smirk of his secures, then turned back to the face to Shiki.
さて、イルレではもうなかったな。あなたはあの男、ニコル・プルミエを追うのだろう。そちらには一切手を出さない。代わりに彼をいただきたい。
He said, pointed to cast his gaze at Akira. The mirror thought it was so revolting, and eventually brought it frown to the Akira's face.
彼はナルニコル。その血にはニコルと同等の価値がある。ニコルはあなたが好きにすればよい。もうすぐ内戦が始まる。CFC と日光連がとうとうぶつかるというわけだ。そうすればイグラも何もない。トシマもおそらく壊滅的なダメージを受けるだろう。だが、そんなことはどうでもいい。彼さえいればね。彼の血の成分を分析すれば、またラインのような。
As Arbato's voice swells to the delighted, an explosion echoes from behind, drowning him out. Everyone turns to find his swords. Flames were roaring in a corner to the palace.
な。
Arbato's eyes wide open, and even as Kaz would observe, it was clear the lips of the curvative violently. That can't be good. I thought so.
これは一体
It just
何が
blew up?
アルビトル様
Against the backdrop of the groundbreak building and it being consumed by orange flame, the mag subordinates ran to meet them.
一体何が起こったというのだ。
それがイグラの参加者たちがコロシアム内部に侵入したようで。
なんだと。警備はどうなっている？
どうも抜け道があったようです。連中はグループで行動しているようで銃を所持しており、その計画的な犯行のようで、他にも数箇所の小規模な爆破が認められ、現場は混乱しており、なかなか捉えられず。
抜け道？銃？計画的？ほほほほほ。お前たちは一体何をやっているんだ？早くそいつらを捕まえろ。
申し訳ありません。
Seems like he might blow his top. I'm about to look so furious. It appears he'd like to maybe we collapse. He's frowning in his face to the Yasukirus.
おいお前たち、一刻も早く城へ戻れ。今すぐにだ。
ああ、クソめんどくせえ。
早くしろ。
Kiran scratches his ear and his pinky, and Gunzire's looks as utterly annoying as are about to widen his crazily. Slowly they've made their way towards the palace. And the castle burned, and the heated carried to the sound of the gunfire in their ears. Shiki glanced at the beheaded Arbato and smirked.
貴様はいいのか？
しかし。
The frightened eyes behind the mask lingered at Akira's as they were released, let it go. His sword bleeded into the red shadows. Shiki slowly pointed a sword at Arbato.
あいつらを呼び戻す前に死ぬことになるぞ。
Arbato, likely unsettled by the place's fire, stumbled under the heavy down.
なんということだ。
早く失せろ。
Completely overwhelming. Arbato's eyes twitches invertedly behind his mask. But the sun is sword, he flashes a projectile a reckless smile.
まあいい。それならこちらはニコルを回収するまでだ。
できるものならな。
Staggered to his feet with a look of disgust, Arbato glanced at Shiki again, rising towards the palace. Kieran remained half dazed, staring at the howling scenes before him. At his feet lay two bodies in the pools of the rain of blood, likely already cold. Flame flickered in the night sky and consumed this whole. Was this all a dream? While he's frozen, someone suddenly yanked at his arm. He looks back. Shiki grabbed his arm while pulling him away from the palace. Without understanding why, Akira found himself almost following him obediently before the sharply snapped his back to reality. I know. Just take him. He shook himself free from his grip with all his strength to retreat some distance from Shiki's, flexing him into the strain of glares. Once again, he found himself grappled with the intense feeling of defeat. After slightly gazed at him, Shiki stepped forward to close the gap that Akira's had made. Akira tried to step back again, but before he could, his stronger than practice struck his throat. Whoa! As he staggers, he couldn't hear the rub of his leather fabric. A low growl that reached into Akira's ears. Shiki's fingers tightened into his throat.
殺すんだろ、俺を。だったらどこまでも追いかけてこい。命を落としてもいいと思えるほど強く強く俺を憎め。今のお前では俺を殺すことはできない。
Sounds like Toxic, I heard.
今のお前など俺が殺すに値しない。
Shiki spoke so quickly, and the voice almost mistaken a gentle, before finally slamming Akira's into the ground of the neck. The impact was even. Akira thought of his spine had snapped. He caused an inverted curve into the ball.
待て。
Shiki turns his back on Akira and began to walk away. His fingers quickly receded and melted into the terminal of his knife. Enduring the pain of running from his throat and his chest, Akira slowly raises his body. He wasn't even aware of the pain. More than that. Right now, you're not even worth it killing. That's all he said. The curl and the echo of those words stung in the throat his grip had. Deep in his guts, even the feeling of defeat trembled in his surge. Perhaps the humiliation felt so profound because Shiki was right. As he was right now, Akira could not beat him. He was not strong enough. He hit to the ground, hardened his fist. His hands shook in the anger of shame. It couldn't end like this. He wouldn't let it. With his pain already distant memory, Akira stood up and he looked at the direction Shiki had disappeared. He had given it a chance. With a singular thought, he follows after him into the back alleys. Shiki was nowhere to be seen, but Akira continued to wander around straight to the wall. He knew that probably wouldn't find him like this, still he kept searching. The city air tingling the unusual restlessness. Anyone could feel that night to the Toshima unlike any others. Rain began to fall in the dark, bonding in the sky, drop by drop. Moisture clinging to the Akira's hair seeped into the skin of the soul of the claiming the princess. But the light drizzled alike, unlike the quest scenes of flames to be in places. Akira has lost his thoughts when there was an explosion. A trumpet buzz had throated his ear, fear rooted into the ground. Akira sharpened his sensitive crisp, circuit his eyes and unfolded scenes. Loud voice, the flood of the chaos, the main street, footsteps, gunshots, screams. Several smaller blasted forth there, echoing after another. Something was definitely happening. Akira started to worry. What should he do? Flee? Or where to? He wouldn't get caught up to the chaos, but he headed to the main street now. He considers it hidden in a building somewhere, but there seems pointless. As far as he knew, the only way to leave Toshima was through the old lands. There are no other choice. Having made this his mind, Akira began to walk to the stop to the corner of the alley. Huh? A figure loomed to the head to the end of the road. Akira overwhelmed nerves of his high alert. Without averting his gaze, and it reached his knife. Kasuga buried into the knife. Almost there was faintly glow. If it's not of these world. He had felt this sensation before. Back then. Golden hair, expensive pale skin, and interested in the beauty of the watercolor painting. The man who has left Akira the briefcase vanished like a ghost. The man took a few slow steps closer to Akira. His golden strands, threaded muted by the rain, still had soft allure. Akira steps into stepping back, holding his knife at the ready. He wasn't afraid, but it seems in the murderous will or fright or spirit, fighting spirit. That is the lack of the instead of all made him uneasy. The man stares at Akira with empty eyes, reflected nothing.
右隣の路地へ入れ。行き止まりの扉。敷かれた入り口。
The door at the dead end, on the ground, in the exit. As Akira frowned at the cryptic words, the man blinked quietly and tilted his head.
お前はお前の色を
Humans were down out of the rain, vanished to the retinous downpour. The man stepped forward. Despite the leisurely pace of the distance between him and Akira quickly closed.
あの男の色
As he passed him, it felt it was hit by the gentle breeze. Akira was unable to stop him and turn around. After a while, he finally managed to move, but by the time that he turned to look behind him, there was no one there. Forgotten the chaos of the city, he stood rooted to the spot. His heart was racing, recalling the man worse. He frowned that he could have ventured. Turned down the alley on the right. That's what he said. He would be found there. It could have been a trap. But somehow, it could have bring himself to the doubt of that man. The entire man who seems like a hallucination. He almost felt familiar. The man didn't seem an enemy. There was no time to think of it. If his mind's made up, Akira turned his heel to the end of the alley on the right. An narrow path stretched straight to the head of him, letting it right into the wall. Was it particularly actually a trap? Or flickered unease across his mind. In the fade of the darkness, Akira squinted at the dead end. The night of the 5th made it nearly impossible to see anything. But his sense that something was off, he approached the began to feeling along with the wall. His fingertips brushed against something hard. Was a protruding like the handle. He gripped it tight and pulled it hard at the wall. Swung and opened the door, creaking, revealing the square passage. The smell of the dust of the mole poured out of the darkness. There seems the room inside Akira. Still couldn't see anything. Turned down the alley on the right, through the door at the dead end, and then rounded the exit. He mulled over the man's words in his head. He had definitely found the door in the dead end, next whatever it was on the ground. It could be inside this room. He hesitated again and threw himself in the unknown, reckless and dangerous. But there is another way. Swallowing nervously, Akira cautiously steps into the room. He couldn't see anything. The humidity of the wrapped around his body felt almost satin. He felt his weight along the wall of his hand, sharpening his sense of the straight side of the movement forward slowly. After walking a while, something gently bumped against his forehead. His spare hand, he reached out and he felt it. Something smooth and made out of many circles of the thin cord. Curiously tugged the cord. There was a click, and the blinded light suddenly flooded his view. Having a groan used the darkness, the light of another forced him to divert his eyes. It was obvious that the cord was connected to the light bulb. The light that pierces his eyes was where he finally seems to his search. It could be something. It could be because of the unknown man, because this is silver. I already know that scene. But this maybe you couldn't, as he said, right now, you're not worth the killing. He wouldn't make sure Shiki would regret those words. That thought it would be drawn him forward. Man, the sword. On the top of the ladder, Akira found himself in the Korean alley's force. After chaotic aftermath, the war has passed, and the National have finally begun to untied and organize. It then, several years later, dodging a man alerted at him, Akira struck him in the palm of his hand. In the back of the he stumbled. He steps on the man's hands, and rendered the agony since his knife is scattered across the ground and inflicted a kick. Mounting the man behind him. Behind he covers his man mouth with one-handed. While pressing the blade threaded the edge against his skin, slit his throat without hesitation. Damn. Bleeding gush out of the man within the ground clutches his throat. Without so many other glances, Akira wrapped in the blood of the sword and sheathed and began to walk away. In the now glimmering alley, underneath the night sky, the man's life quietly slapped away. The Civil War has ended. Japan is on fire. Now under the leadership of the former Nikkei, and the country will walk into the path of the peace. With wild blasters still remain, it was the less than infamous street fighting among wayward youth, and there were no martial arts that the people could have enjoyed it with ease. But that didn't mean Japan without its darkness. He got everything and ensured that those words wandered into it. He was the one who had been ensured. But to achieve the purpose, he had no choice but to embrace the darkness, to find a certain person. While honoring his skills, he sometimes took on a job that he would have not proud of. Anything unnecessary to pinpoint whereabouts of a certain individual. There was a time when he had to put his life on the line to do what he had to do. He hesitated at first and gradually becomes a part of the everyday life. Sometimes he wanted even in the struggles of the life and death. Once in a sense it was nobody was nothing. It was the same numbness that he felt with Blaster. The hole in his heart would never be filled. Breathing softly, Akira quietly stalked to the street. In distance was the mist in the building has been prickly lately. He would never stay in a place, always drifting to spot to spot. He hadn't lingered at the building as wild now. It was the smell, ordinary building, now abandoned. For some reason, it stirred the sense of nostalgia in him. Perhaps remind him of Toshima. Akira scuffs himself to thinking. What was he even looking for? He finally got to the building. It was just he thought it was to step in. He held stands to the presence. There was a fully Caucasian, or perhaps he didn't care about Caucasian. It was probably the leather. Seized the quiet rage, Kira reached out his swords. If his adversary made no efforts to consider their presence, this is clearly a beginning understatement. The enemy was close, probably skulking around the building's entrance. The attention to the air tightening around him. Slowly he drew his blade at his scabbard, and the moment of the offender started the air. Since the prince of the adversity shifted slightly, Akira took a large step in and swung his sword. The flash of light cut through the darkness. The impact crossed through his arms. His blade has been blocked the other, shimmered as silver. Leaping in his back, swiftly, Akira stands with shock of his hands. The numbing blows of the reach for the marrow of his bones. He knew this sensations. Blood rushes to his feet and instead boiled and surged back to his brain. He knew this sensation. This was,
少しはやるようになったが
of course, Shiki's there as well. His heart shook. The voice stabbed it through his eardrum, permanent through his guts and the bones. It was the man has been chasing so desperately. From the entrance of the building, a shadow emerges and carved from the darkness. Beneath the dim lights that faded to the streets, lamps of the face had become clear. Confronting what he was already knew, his heart trembles aloud in his chest. Shiki.
そのふぬけ面は相変わらずだな。
A voice of tolerant, no opposition, piercing the red eyes, smiles beaming with the confidence. He was exactly the same as before. The man remained as vivid and untouched at the time to the finger of his memory.
そっちこそ
Struggling from surprise to the silver, he barely emerged the lifted corners of his mouth, stumbling up the smile. At last, the time has come. It has no other overstatement to say Akira has lived for these days. Always search for Shiki. All of it. To kill Shiki with his own hands. Oh, nice. That's a good one, CG. They all look so good. As if it seeks to confirm the realities of the situations. He clenched his hand and slowly drew his sword in his scalpel. He directed a blade and strained it at Shiki. Shiki's red eyes, now to his katana. Living on an image of Shiki's lingered in his memory, Akira has eventually become unsure of the darkness inside himself. His hands raided in his katana, and the movements of the battle that attached to his mind replayed in his body. Perhaps it has become too captivated by the man before him.
ようやくだ
As the word slips to Akira's lips, Shiki flashes a perfected smile.
望み通り殺してやる。
Those words brought him back to his days in Toshima. For Shiki's too, the time has never ended. Their time in Toshima was still going on. It would be the end, not end until they settled things. No, perhaps it would have been the end even then. No matter who won or lost, it didn't matter anymore. There was they have longed for. The day will cross the sword. Shiki swung his sword, boarding it to the side and ran at him. Akira, too, ready to his sword. The fate of the ladder street lamps and then reflect off the blade. In this disordered alley, unbeckoning to anyone else, two dark figures clashing dirt like thunder. The sound of the metal hit the metal, bringing to the murderous intent mingles of obvious delight. Akira surpassed the smile, the vibration tearing through his arms. It was the moment has been longing for, and he figured Shiki had to. Again and again, the blades struck each other, the prices the skills, as if it curved to the others, smothered the soul. Blue sparks spewed into the air. Akira improved his skills enough to engage. Shiki is on equal footing to be able to concentrate on the man on the front of them without the panic or fear of the defeat of the unparalleled delay. The sound of pent up emotions resonates rebranding through to the fateful night. When the battle will be end is not clear. Perhaps it will be endured forever. Whew! Perhaps a good long longer than this one. So, we had finally done with Shiki's route. So, final thoughts about Shiki. In uncensored, I may be despising this point of day on. But this page just gets better. So, an uncensored version of that ending, when Shiki Akira's wearing a military outfit, it looks badass at this point. Now in this True Blood, Akira's outfit looks just like him and inspired. So I'll get this at a 9.5 out of 10 on this one. Ooh. Achievement. Shiki's ending 1. View Shiki's first ending. Well, we're done with that Shiki's route. So, tomorrow, there is a new character of this one. There is a new character of this. The long-awaited route you all been waiting for. So, I cannot access to get the true ending yet. I will begin to play tomorrow. It will be a full length of this stream of this one. It will be as quick as possible of this. The next route will be Yukihito. If you don't know who Yukihito is, Drum Game Walkthrough, he did show up entire episode in this walkthrough, the guy with the red hair. You will get to know him in this one. I'll stop for I will upload YouTube.